the trolls reside. There's a Twitch channel where legends collide. Full of games, fairy tales unseen, streaming Dungeons and Dragons in a world so obscene. With dice in hand, we venture through the night. The Dungeon Master weaves his magic with all his might, gathering warriors, wolves, and bells. Lost in a labyrinth, no one can tell. Gather round the screen, let the stories unfold. It's rolling armor, leading the way. Troll of games, we're here to stay.
Trollord Games. Join the fray.
Well, no, we were KTLG, not WTLG.
No, WTLG is correct.
I think KTLG.
That's what you were trying to sell. That's what you're trying to sell. Yeah. Sure.
The guy told me that it's on the west side of the Mississippi. It's K.
You shouldn't remember shit like that. It's not important. What's up, everybody? Oh,
Are we live?
yeah, we're live.
There you go, Chuck. I gave you our introduction. This is KTLG in the afternoon.
Oh my God.
June 11th, 2024. You know, Chuck, I had completely forgotten about that until you mentioned to me like a week ago. then it was all brought back to my tiny brain pan. I saw that Sparky and Lando bought me Dr. Pepper. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you know, Lando, you're going to have to get in here earlier. Sparky's rolling in earlier than you now. It's shameful. Oh, what? Oh, did you?
Robert Moore sent me this.
You got that, did you? That's excellent. Excellent. I couldn't say it. I was sworn to secrecy.
It's awesome.
Good. I'm glad you like it. It's good. That's
Yes,
awesome.
Very, very good. Well, we are here for an Ask Me Anything. I'm Stephen Chenault, the disembodied voice of Chuck Humbo, and we are talking about anything and everything that comes up. We got a Kickstarter we launched yesterday. It's doing fantastic. It's for the new Castles and Crusades Reforged, the OGL Refined. I can't remember what Finn told me to say. He wrote this, the grammatic. I can't remember what it is. Yeah, there's a Kickstarter. Yeah, exactly. Interestingly enough, a Wolf Alone.
Shocking.
So yesterday, in the massive swirl, so launching these things is entertaining. You've got a whole lot of information that you got to put in there, and you got about three types of. You got to express the information in three different ways, both in the pledge levels and twice in the pledge levels, and then once in the long form. So it's kind of tough making sure all that lines up, and then you like last minute changes. So it's just a swirl. Launching these things is always a mess, and in the middle of it. Of course, we have given away the player's handbook. We sent that out to some 5,000 people who had pre-signed up for this thing. And if you haven't, go sign up. We'll get you the player's handbook sometime this week, probably later this week. And Jeremy was looking at it the first time and began kind of picking apart the spell. So in the midst of all of the swirl that was going on with the Kickstarter, getting it launched, fixing a few things here and there, responding to comments and questions, trying to get everything lined out. For things that we may have missed that on the other end, someone sees and says, "Hey, this isn't working." Jeremy just sends me this spreadsheet, just this gigantic spreadsheet of things that we need to address in the spell section of the book. So I was trying to comment to Jeremy and trying to help Chuck and get the Kickstarter. So yesterday was an entertaining day, but that said, we cut out about an hour today and went over the inconsistencies in the spells and are in the process of fixing that. So that's very good. But it was a 3 Dr. Pepper day, at least, I think. Yesterday was. I hate to be negative, says Starlaw, but I'm not a fan of the tattoos on gnomes. But other than that, I love it. Excellent. You know, one of the things that we tried to do with the gnome, this is the gnome. You're going to have to join us, Starlaw, on this Twitch stream, this one on Thursday, because the gnome gets so much hate from so many quarters. Everyone hates that poor gnome, and I think it's because they're kind of it's that garden guy that shows up at Walmart or wherever. You're the little red hat guy. So when I sat down and redid the gnome, it's one of the few revisions that came in from the 8th to the 9th printing. I think it's the only revision, honestly. I went in there and I said, okay, I got to do something to this gnome to get him away from that red capped little bastard. And that's when I came up with. And no one who has been in this stream for even a few minutes is going to be surprised when I say that I took it as my inspiration, the elves from Warriors of the Shadow Realm.
There it is. There it is.
I bring up at least once a week. But I appreciate the feedback. It is why we went that direction, just to kind of give them shake them up.
Very true. Grognard Piper, what is this? Hey man, I've never got that PDF. I put in for it Sunday when we were all on Discord. I'm not sure what you're referring to over on YouTube. Please elaborate, because I don't like you to be unhappy.
For those of you who have not, if you've backed the Kickstarter, that's great, but please go to www.troller.com, scroll down just a little bit. You're going to see this dwarf forging away. There's going to be a link there. Go to that link and enter your email address for that, because you will get, probably Friday, we're going to send another copy of the Player's Handbook out. So people can see.
All right. I see. So just,
it'll make sure you get.
I got
it's
you.
a little harder to distribute that stuff through Kickstarter. We can do it, but so just have a gander in it. Like no, that look like bikers. There you go, Dirty Dwarf. First time chat, Sir Blackheart says, "I love how you guys did the alignments. I believe that is the best way I've seen them done, and my dad loves them so much he sold them for his game." Oh, that's very, very cool. We sat down and looked at those alignments, and it really. I think the inspiration for breaking that up like we did really came from everything doesn't have to be what we wanted is to give some kind of choice to both the CKs and the players that maybe you want to be more lawful than evil, maybe you want to be more evil than lawful, and so forth and so on, just to give a little more variance in a system that is, I mean, let's face it, the alignment is difficult to place on in any kind of real life scenario. This guy Dahmer was clearly evil, but there's a lot of people who do evil things that aren't necessarily evil. They're just, bad circumstance or what have you. But I very, very much appreciate it. Chuck, I'm quickly losing track of these questions. Do you want our comments? Do you need to track that?
No, you're good right now. Just Bifford's got one I want you to address. That'll probably help everybody that's listening on Kickstarter or Twitter or wherever. It's highlighted.
All right. So Bifford says, no one likes the dropping of stat blocks for passages. Also, using red is the worst color choice possible for highlighted text, as the most common color blindness issue is red-green. Are you doing something about this? So what we've done, for those of you who have not looked at the Player's Handbook, we stepped back in time. The first idea, keep in mind, we got to remove the OGL material from the game. So we kind of stepped back in time, and we did what Mac had, when Mac originally did the spell designs for the first printing. And you can go look at your first printing now, and you'll see there's no stat blocks in it for the spells. There's none. The stats for the spells were put at the end of each paragraph. And he did that very, very, yes, Barbara, that would be great. He did that very specifically, and he did that to take away, or to soften, I should say, to soften the mechanical idea of spells, so that you'll look at the spell first and then worry about the mechanics later. The stat block comes in, I think the second printing is when we did the stat block. So the first inspiration for removing the stat blocks from the spells and putting them into complete sentences comes directly from that. Now, there's other reasons that we did that. One is to make the game a little bit more literary, to back people off of using the spell stats as the kind of the cornerstone. It's not red, it's orange on our end, so I'm not sure how that's translating in the PDFs. It's not at all a red color, so Bifford, I can't address that. It's orange.
I think for people that have vision issues, it's definitely a different color.
No, I don't doubt that at all. I've
often wondered, and I know this sounds heinous, of just literally making it a bigger bold or something just for the highlighted stuff. I don't know.
It's
Something.
definitely bolded, so I would assume that people who are colorblind, and I don't know because I'm not colorblind, and this is the first time anyone has ever said this to me about the color blindness, even though we've been using this highlighted text for 3 printings now. The text is definitely bolded, so I'm not sure how that would translate that way. But what we're going to do definitely, this is definitive. So what we're going to do in the last portion of the book, the last 2 or 3 pages, you will see a chart, a table that has all of the spells and has all of the spells, the duration and the range and all that stuff. So if someone can't read the text as it is or has trouble, they can go to the back of the book and definitely do that. We're also going to release layered PDFs so that people can pull those layers out and have it black and white text if that's what they need, if that's what they want for their vision. Because I know vision is a huge thing, and reading is, it's one reason we went up from smaller fonts to larger fonts, because it gets tougher and tougher to read. But that is definitely what we're going to do about it. I've gotten probably, I would say, 7 out of 10 people who have looked at it, and their initial reaction to the spell layout is, they don't like it. It's different. Please go back. And then probably about 3 out of 10 absolutely love it. It's a literary approach. It's a new approach, and so that's what we're getting kind of on our end.
I want both.
What we do about that? Do what?
I want both.
Yeah. Well, with that, in all honesty, with the chart at the end of the book, you get both.
That's right.
That kind of solves the issue, I think. And for me, when I need a stat, I actually absolutely hate having to go. If I need to know the duration of bless, I hate having to go to the thing and look for bless. Having a chart in the back of the book, that's a no-brainer. I don't know why we didn't do that 9 printings ago.
Yeah, and we're going to provide. Steve was okay with this. We're going to provide a blank one in there as well, so that you can. And if we get the table cheat sheets, if Steve will let me, I'm gonna include a spell sheet in there that's like this, and you can give it to your players. And literally, they can write down the spells they've memorized, and it's just a chart, and they don't have to open the book unless it's for something new.
So
Talk about fast.
I think there's tools. Sparky says if I had time grasping a spell, the descriptive text is better. If I had hard time grasping a spell, the descriptive text is better because it presents. That's the thing. It's kind of a mixed bag, and I think that and another part of it, I want to get the trade dress. I want to have our own very unique trade dress. Chuck said this best yesterday. This isn't Dungeons and Dragons. This is Castles and Crusades, and it is a very fast, very easy, very fun game. It's designed around your imaginative role play. And we're really not trying to, we really, even from the beginning, even the way we laid out, if you look in the first printing, Mac was very insistent that the classes come first. He was very insistent on numbing rules everywhere to make everything seem a little bit less rules, but you still got to have them. Just kind of back off on all of it.
Right. They're just not like rigid or important or whatever. You have to have this.
Yeah, because that's what happens when you see it first, is you start thinking, okay, this is the way it is, and that's not really how CNC is designed.
Sparky had submitted a couple comments just before that. I want to point those out to you. Can I read them to you real quick? Plus, just a note that the crowd loves the idea of spell cards. Just throwing that out there. All right, now moving on. Let's see. Sparky says, last night I sat down with my main spellcaster, also a gnome, and we kind of had a mock spell battle to see how things flowed with the new spell descriptions. It was kind of clunky for him, and it wasn't in line with how he kept up with spells in his own notes. It was kind of awkward on my end, too. End of the world? No. But I also realized our backgrounds might play a role in this. My first love is aviation, and technical info is essentially listed as a stat block. I'm used to looking up specs in a quick reference sort of way, not a descriptive one. So for me, I think for him, what he's saying is he's so used to doing it that way that it's a learning curve for him.
Yeah, and that actually is an extremely valid point. I would be curious to know how many people have this kind of negative reaction to it immediately, who are actually programmers, designers, and deal with technical data. I don't deal with any of that technical data. I don't do the game design side of things. Even when I write stuff like in the Avengers Backpack, it has to be screened over by Mac and other people to make sure the mechanics work. Mine is almost all kind of, whatever, literary, whatever you want to call it. So when I look at a stat block, it actually irritates me. I'm not trying to pitch the stats, keeping the stat blocks. Jeremy's learned the hard way. I look at a stat block in my brain, I don't care. I don't care about any of this crap. And I just start making it up because I'm not going to read it. But if I have something to read, I'll actually read it. So I think there's two sides of the camp, and I suspect strongly that a lot of gamers, probably a lot of spellcasters, are more technically oriented in the way they process data. I'm certainly not. I mean,
That's a good
I don't
point.
care about. Yeah, I just don't care about much. So
No, in fact, to be honest with you, you don't reference a lot of spells in your games either. You just don't.
no, I don't. I don't.
You're very story oriented. Very.
Yeah, and even from my side of the screen, from the CK side of the screen, there's very little. In fact, one of my favorite classes from the Adventurers backpack is the Arcane Thief. But that if you play an Arcane Thief at my table, it's pointless because I don't ever have spellcasters attacking you, so you can't ever thief anything. you got to go for your buddy. So for me, yeah, definitely the spells.
And again, you saying that just shows how subjective. It's just like medicine. Gaming is the same way. Every table, every GM, every player is different. So it's a tough nut. That's why I like options at the end of the day. I like being able to have that change and to have the narrative. Because you know how it was when you first showed me the acid arrow / bolt spell. I went nuts over it, right? But I also know that my guys at the table, some of my guys will literally shit their pants when they see no step blocks. Now, I guarantee they will. One of them's a real wizard guy.
It is an immediate reaction.
Right. But having them being able to show them a chart or something or whatever, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So we'll get this. I think that Jeremy can get that spell chart done by the end of this week. And I got a good chunk of the fixes that Jeremy and I went over in today. I already got them in the book. So we'll have that stuff done and give you guys a better idea. And then we'll step forward. And like I said yesterday, I'm not inclined to take apart a game and make it, difficult for the sake of some whatever esoteric idea that I have. That said, I don't want to just back off of this idea just because we all kind of have an immediate reaction. I mean, when someone told me that Netflix was a thing and you could have, TV streaming in my house, I'm like, oh, how am I going to do that? It's the same thing. I didn't get Netflix forever and a day. Hell, I didn't even buy PDFs forever and a day. I thought that was kind of useless. Will the new books have the tribute covers? Yes, they will definitely have the tribute covers on them. It will have Castles and Crusades Not Reforged, but we'll definitely have those covers. Those things are just too beautiful to not give them another round of printing, I think each spell title should underline to help separate them from the spell before, and what classes and level they are should be a parentheses and or a smaller font. Oh, no, that's interesting. It's funny you should say that because one of the things that went into gutting the spell stats that we did, and we talked about this yesterday, is a formatting issue because each of those things is a table, and each of those tables. They're never set correctly because sometimes the duration is longer and sometimes the range is longer and it doesn't fit perfectly. So if you go to your ninth printing and you look down, it's not going to line up most of the time. And this causes layout issues for me anyways. And some people would complain, hey, your duration is out of line with your range or whatever. And then also on laying the columns down in a page, you can't split a column. So, you either got a gap at the bottom of something or however. And to me, it looks a little bit clunky. So the narrative kind of takes that away. The narrative killing the spell block takes it away. Now, what you mentioned is very, very interesting in the way we have the spell levels at the top. It does the same thing. If it's a spell that's got 3, maybe if the illusionist if it's an illusionist spell, it almost definitely goes to a second line, which I find very off-putting when I'm looking at the spells. I really don't like it to say level 2 cleric, level 3 wizard, level 4, and then illusionist underneath that. It really should be on the same line. So that's another thing we're going to work at to see if we can't clean that up. So that's a pretty good idea. Maybe shrink it down, put in a parenthetical or something. Let's see. It's not just about the trying to step away from D&D. This takes steps away from decades of established game culture. Oh yeah, no, without a doubt, Sparky, it definitely does. This approach to spells, I don't think it's just like when Castles and Crusades launched. There was no open gaming license games out there anywhere. There was no OSR or any of that stuff. It was Dungeons and Dragons, and then a whole bunch of D&D 3rd edition 3.5 content, and then there was Castles and Crusades. And so this would be the exact same thing. We would be stepping out and doing something that I don't think any other game systems do anywhere. This would be definitely something new. Read further back, Steve. There's more context. Let's see. I hate tables. Just trying to find Sparkies.
Let me give you a question
now that
here.
I think about it, It really goes against the grain of 30 to 40 years of gaming. So many TTRPG game uses variations of stat blocks, but also video games. Look at the various video games. Most of them have stat blocks in one form or another. They also, yeah, they absolutely. And they also have icons. Someone mentioned on the Discord using icons, which I thought was a fascinating idea. Can't quite envision how that would play out, though. First time chat, Dork says, just back the full PDF on a Kickstarter. I looked through the player's handbook of the last edition and thought it was interesting. Thank you, Dork. Very, very much appreciate the backing and the support and joining us today on Twitch. I love tables, he said.
So I've got a question from Mr. Morcafora. He asked, what are the biggest changes in ReForged, and do I need to buy all the books?
So I'll do a quick breakdown for everybody. There's 4 books in this Kickstarter, and it's going to be the Player's Handbook, the Castle Keeper's Guide to Monsters and Treasures, and Beneath the Canopy Green. I'm going to start with Beneath the Canopy Green. This is the C-Series adventure modules. It's going to get a revision. It's going to be updated to the new spell names, magic items names, all that stuff, so that it matches with whatever. We've unlocked a stretch reward that will be a C0. For those of you familiar with the C series, it starts at 2nd, 3rd level in C0. I've got a very clever way to get you from 1st to 2nd level, and that will be in C0 in the book, so that it'll actually be a 1st level through 10th, I guess. I can't remember exactly where the C series runs out. Bill Edmonds is redoing all the maps. The C series is our oldest adventure. Mortality of Green was our first published adventure, with Fantastic Adventure by Matt Golden and Vakund by Davis. And the maps in Mortality of Green are very, very old. And you can see the C series is the most interesting for me from an anthropological perspective, because you can look at the map design over time. Those books were done every 3 years or so, or 2 years, and you can see where we changed the maps. Well, in this one, you're going to have all complete new maps, a bunch of new art. So same adventures, just updated, cleaned up, new art, new maps. And the maps are going to be critical to that thing. The CKG has almost no changes to it whatsoever. If you've got an existing copy of the CKG, you really don't need to get a new one. We'd appreciate it if you do, but you don't need to. I'm guessing, I think it's chapter 4 or 3. I can't remember what it is. There's spells. Those spell names need to be updated as a chapter on monster. That the monsters, they've already been updated. And there's probably some bits and pieces of magic items or something in there that are going to need to update it. But the vast 99% of the CKG will stay exactly the way the CKG is. Monsters and Treasures is going to get the most overhauling, and it's not really a rules stuff. The treasure section is already overhauled. Jeremy did that. That had the absolute most in it. That's already done. And then the monsters is going to be cleaned up, 3rd edition stuff pulled out of it. And the key to the monster book is every monster gets its own picture, and we are hard at work at that. We just got all the lycanthropes were turned over, all the nagas were turned over. There's a bunch of dinosaurs that I've seen, so it's looking great. So the MT will have the most changes by a stretch. In the Player's Handbook, the changes are very minimal. You're looking at about 20% of the spell names changed to different names, and we tried to keep them very, very close. Like, I think today we decided on mnemonic enhancer is mnemonic enhancement. So a lot of the spell names that do change are going to be exactly the way they were, very close to the way they were. The biggest change in the Player's Handbook at the moment is the way we laid the spells out. We did it in kind of a narrative fashion, and we're going to put a spell chart in the back of the book with all of the crunchy bits to it. So I think that's it. I think that's all of the changes. Fire, Chuck. I can't hear you, Chuck, if you're talking.
Yeah, Joe Grognard, I just turned Twitch on. Y'all might have heard the reverb, but I'm sure you didn't. But it's definitely working on our end. I don't know what the deal is on your computer, but I just wanted to let you know. Oh, you probably can't hear us, actually. Okay, well.
Oh, yeah.
It's fine.
Everything's out. Go ahead.
Just a second. You just time this
real quick. Grognard Piper, the CK screens are going to stay the same as it stands now. As the Kickstarter develops, that we may see a change in those, but those are pretty solid, I think.
Yeah. He also asked about will the new books have the tribute covers?
Yes, new books will definitely have the tribute covers on them. I'm super excited about those things. Absolutely love those covers. Oaken Dragon Press says the audio is working.
Yeah.
And Twitter is working for us. So.
Yeah, he couldn't hear through Twitter, but I don't know.
Any questions I missed in that ramble?
No, you're good. You're caught up.
Okay, good deal. My group does a lot of board and mini games too. We get very annoyed by the icons instead of words. It just gets confusing. That's the problem, I think, with icons in a situation like this. especially when you got four spells on a page. I looked at the guy's suggestion. I thought it was very interesting and very cool, but I'm not sure how it would practically, work. Maybe a shield is the casting time, it has a 1 or a 2, but that breaks down almost immediately because there's days and hours and minutes and whatever else casting times are. So it's the thing about the spells is they're not. It's not like a Eli Whitney's cotton gin or whatever. It's not interchangeable parts. It's each of these things are a little bit different. So getting it into some kind of uniform is a little bit tough. I have a question. Exactly how many times do I have to ask you about something before you can pitch it? Usually about 3 times.
We had a long discussion about that.
Yeah.
It'll
First
happen.
time I usually have an immediate reaction to why are we doing this? This is going to cost time, and time is money. And is this going to actually help in the long run? I'm about 8 for spell.
I have a dream of someday putting out a biography of working with the Troll Lord. Troll Lord games and my experiences or something.
And this is where, of course, Davis and Mac have had to deal with this for years and years and years. Todd doesn't, interestingly, because Todd thinks like I do, but Chuck has to deal with it. Now Jeremy has to deal with it.
Yeah.
And Grace is going to join y'all's team because I don't think like that. I don't think that we've got to have an internal consistency from spell to spell. I really don't think it's necessary. I mean, I honestly don't. I think the internal consistency actually kind of, it's going to sound horrible to say, but it kind of detracts from you doing imaginative play. If things are a little bit not consistent, you've got to kind of fix it or ignore it or work your way around it. But if everything is lined up perfectly and you know which direction to go on the sidewalk, that's the direction that you're going to go. So that's where my brain pan is. And it, of course, runs into things with mechanics. And at a certain point, you've got to have some kind of mechanic that plays out at the table, right? It can't be one of the funniest things. Mac only barely admits this, but when he and Davis sat down to create, and he'll say this if he's had it, a little bit, if he's imbibed a little bit, he'll remember the truth of it. But so we played AT&T from 1977, whenever the Monster Manual came out, until 2006, like 2 years after Castles and Crusades came out. And the reason that we played it is the game was so malleable. I could do anything to it, and I never read the rules, so I just kind of used the combat charts and the monster's armor class and hit points was about all I used. Everything else I just kind of changed as I wanted it to. But one of the things that I started doing, and this drove Mac batshit crazy, absolutely batshit crazy. He would say, "I want to swim this river," and I would say, "Okay." And I literally, and no joke, no sarcasm, I would look. Here's my screens. I would look behind the screens and I'd go, "Roll a d6," and then he'd roll a d6. And then 10 minutes later, Todd would say, "Okay, I'm going to swim the river too," and I'd say, "Roll a d12." And all I would do is pick a target number in my head, and if they made it, they made it. So it was completely chance. Frequently, I just wanted them to do it, and so they could swim it or whatever. So that grated on Mac so much that I think that's kind of what partially inspired the Siege Engine, so he could give me some kind of simple mechanic that I could do behind the screen that made sense to him, to me, at the table and all that. So that's a little bit where that stuff comes from. But my brain I don't think in that direction. So when Jeremy comes at me or Chuck comes at me or whoever comes at me and says, "We got to change this because of this," my immediate reaction is, I don't think we got to change anything because I can run this and have no problems running it. So if I can do it, and I'm kind of an idiot, anybody can do it. That's kind of the way I look at it. But it's not fair because you do need Mark Sandy, who worked for us for years, very, very close friend of mine. He left us in 2015, I guess. He's a mechanic guru guy. And he told me once, he said, "I can't play the game if I don't know what my odds are. I've got to be able to figure out my odds to succeed or fail at this task." And it doesn't mean that if he has a low odds to succeed, he's not going to try it, but his brain needed something. So it's just different ways of looking at things.
The Orc Boss said, "I wonder how using CNC Reforged and the Gary Gygax World Builders Archive will pan out." I actually got to look at the CNC rulebook because I backed the Gary Gygax World Builders Archive.
What was the question?
It's just a comment. He's wondering how using CNC Reforged and the Gary Gygax World Builders Archive will pan out.
So we are going to remove all mechanics from those GFW books, from the Gygax World Builder books. They were put in there so that we could comply with the D25% rule. When you published OGL material back in the day, well, any day, 5% of your book had to be open so that other people could use it without having to bother you with permission. So we wanted to protect Gary's IP. So we created these classes. I can't remember who wrote them anymore. Gary probably wrote some. I know Todd wrote some. I didn't have anything to do with that, but so that stuff was put in there. And I've asked Dan. He's sitting. I think the Canning Crew's ready for editing. Dan asked the other day, "What are we doing with these things?" And I said, "Just put them all to the side. We may do something with them later, but for now, they're not going to be part of the Gygaxian fantasy world." Gary didn't intend it that way. He wanted those books to be, if you're playing Rollmaster, if you're playing Merc, if you're playing, Shadow, whatever, you just got these books and you can use them. So that was the plan. I want to swim this river, roll a d6, and that means take you to die. Sort of. I really just didn't. I did a little bit. I think the Wilderness Survival Guide in AD&D had an attribute check system, but it was reversed, right? You had to roll above your dex. I can't remember. It was weird. I learned a long time ago that the game Steve plays is not the same as CNC. Mine definitely, it veers off. I use the living crap out of the Siege engine now. That is so easy for me. I don't adjust the spread. We talked about that yesterday. Some people, they want a 15 and something. I can't remember. Now, I don't adjust the spread at all. I just roll with it. But the Siege engine is so simple.
I'll tell you.
That it fits my game style. I mean, it fits anyone's game style perfectly because it is so simple.
There is so many good discussions in Discord about optional ways to bend the Siege engine checks like that. There's all kinds of arrays. You just wouldn't see it. I saw one guy who was using like 11 and like 18 or something. It was wild. He was doing something.
I remember when Davis and Mac went over it. I can't remember the spreads. They did all kinds. I mean, just a huge number of spreads. Davis pushed hard for 30 to be involved because he loves the D30. It's his favorite dice. So the spread at one point was huge. I don't know. I had nothing to do with that. My only part in that was if I can't understand the rule in the first reading, I got to rewrite it.
Yeah.
And then he says, yes, the illusion of choice, an excellent mechanic.
That's great.
That's the way it is sometimes. How do you handle magic in the AD days? So, we played Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I have one of those pluggers in books. Mac, my kind of rule in those days, and it's still a rule in this day. Now, I know a little bit more about Castles and Crusades than AD&D back in the day, because my rule was basically whatever's in the player's handbook is yours. Whatever's in the DMG and the monster manual is mine. If you looked in the monster manual, I deducted your character's experience points. I was brutal in those. I was brutal in those days with experience points. So if someone was looking at they looked behind my screen, they lost experience points. But I didn't want to know what was going on in the player's handbook. So Mac and Mark were the big spellcasters in those days. Todd did a little bit. They just, whatever, casting times and all of that stuff, they looked it up. So I didn't, and I still kind of suffer from that now. I play a cleric occasionally, but mostly I run the games. So this reaction to the way the spells are laid out in the player's handbook is very interesting to me, and I'm watching it. I'm listening to everybody. I'm not saying whatever. I'm going to put out a statement of my reasoning, why I designed them the way I did. Probably tomorrow. Grace was cleaning it up for me, and it's not an argumentative piece. It's not a debatable piece. It's not just. I'm just putting it there so you know where my mind was when I designed the look of the stat blocks, and then we'll go forward. I ran a CNC game with 15 as the target for all checks, and Prime was a +3. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do with that. That the Siege engine is it is exactly what we say it is.
It's malleable.
It's malleable. I know that it's whatever the word is, because I'm the CEO, whatever. But when just to give you a little bit of story, for those of you who knew at the table, just maybe watching us over on Kickstarter or Twitter, so we played AD&D from 70 whatever to, I don't know when the Monster Manual came. I think 77. From 77 to this day, to 2006. Castles and Crusades was released in 2004. I continued to run our weekly game with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons for the next year and a little bit over a year, until sometime in 2006, Mac said, "Listen," and we're already selling the first printing. We're heading to a second printing, and he said, "Listen, this is great. You've been running this game for AD&D forever and a day. That's fine. but I want you to run at least one Castles and Crusades game to see how you like it. And if you don't, we're going to stop playing your game. So that was Davis.
Isn't that when the
and
police
Mac.
was called? I think, right?
Yeah, that was Davis and Mac, and that's like it was Laura, Sarah, Chris, me, Mac, Todd, Davis. So that's like a third of my players. We're going to rebel. I said, okay, fine. So I sat down and we made up first level characters. I believe we ran an adventure. I'm sure it was the Darkenfold. I have no doubt that it was the Darkenfold. And it took me about an hour to get into the Siege engine to realize how it was working, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I converted the game immediately. The AD&D game the next week, we were shifting it into. It was almost a flawless shift from AD&D to Castles and Crusades. And this is a game. Though I've been playing AD&D since -- we started this game in 1986. So we've been playing this game for almost 20 years, 85, 86. You have to have Todd. He knows all that stuff. And we shifted into AD&D without another thought and didn't look back. So that's what the Siege engine, and that's what CNC brought to the table for me. So if you are sitting on the fence, get a hold of it. You can go get the 7th printing off of the store right now for free. Download that sucker, have a gander at it. Play a couple of games. Let your mind get around what's going on.
I was going to tell you, I've got some more questions, but I was going to say real quick, been playing for 48 years like you, and, I've played countless games. But my medieval fantasy game go to is CNC and there's a reason why, because that's why, you know what I mean? I can play all these games. I have them on my shelves, but the Siege engine, I typically run most of the games outside of CNC. I'll typically try to convert those to Siege engine, and it works really well, like Fallout 2D20 system. I didn't dig it. I have the Siege engine, which for me is the win-win. It's what makes any of our games shine, honestly, right? And that's not because I work here, because I would have told you that in 2004. I would have told you that when it first came out. And, when I finally switched over to 5e for 8 years and then came back, I had 8 games going. And only one person out of all those players, 30-some players, had a problem. And that was because he liked his bard, because he could do everything. And that was the only complaint I had. So, all right, anyway. Grognard Piper again says, how did you handle magic in the AD&D days?
That's what I addressed.
Did you address that one? Okay, then. I didn't hear that one. Question. What's the easiest way for a content creator to get... Oh, how's it for a content creator to get into the publishing game?
So, we talk about this occasionally. Someone asked me at GaryCon what was the... what single piece of advice I'd give someone who's trying to get into this side of things. And I tell them the same thing every time. Take it seriously. Treat it seriously. Don't treat it like a hobby. If you treat it like a hobby, it's going to be a hobby. So take it as a part-time job, and this is what I'm doing part-time. And I think the easiest way right now, depending on your resources. Now, if you can set up a website and all that, that'd be great. But Drive-Thru RPG gives you a really good platform to make something and sell something and earn money off of it. And if it's really good, or if it's really good and catches attention, because there's a whole bunch of timing, there's all kinds of stuff that goes into these things. It's not, you're going to have the greatest adventure in the world and it never really hits because of whatever.
And it's, and they allow print on demand. I mean, there's so many good options over there for some
they do. But it gives you a huge platform that you can start earning money. That's the way I would recommend it. So if you wanted to do some Castles and Crusades material, we've got an open license. Just download it, sign it, send it to us. You're golden. And then you start putting some stuff out and put it on Drive-Thru and just market the crap out of it. Talk about it.
Let us know.
Let us know. Yeah, especially if it's our game. If you're doing CNC, we will promote as much as we can. That said, now those people who do CNC games, we'll promote a little bit, then we'll forget. Just give us a shout again. Hey man, could you give me another push? We'll give you another push. So yeah, I think that it's tough. It's very, very crowded. There's probably 1,000, if not more, publishers over there. But what isn't tough? You want to be a farmer? It's going to be tough. You want to move across the country? It's going to be tough. True. I mean, anything that you want to do, that is a passion or whatever, it's probably not going to be easy.
No, you're right. And but again, it's the best place, and it's not like we were fanboys of them or anybody else. But honestly, they have all the tools. So that's how you do it. Death Angel's got a really good question. I've been meaning to ask you myself, so he'll ask it.
Okay, so I'll let you all in on a little bit of behind the scenes with this particular Kickstarter. It's very interesting. And Chuck's asked me this a few times. Jeremy asked me this. and even Grace, I think, asked me this: how well do you think this Kickstarter is going to do? And I have no way. And this is one of the few I have no way of gauging. I had no way of gauging whether we're going to lose a whole bunch of players because we're dropping this OGL content, or whether we're going to appeal to a whole bunch. It was just kind of up in the air. So the slipcases can be extremely expensive, and interestingly enough, and this is what galls me the most, and this is goes back to the same thing. For those of you who know me or been on Twitch know, it appalls me to pay money for a hotel room. It absolutely appalls me. I will sleep in my truck in a heartbeat, because it just to spend $180 for a bed for 9 hours makes absolutely no sense to my extraordinarily small brain. And it's the same thing with shipping. It's why when we heard someone from today, Brazil, that this is too expensive to ship to Brazil, it drives me nuts. The shipping should not be this expensive. And the shipping of those slipcases is absolutely batshit crazy expensive.
Is it bad?
To the point that and I can tell you now, because we're doing slipcases for the GFW,
right?
Dakota and I will be driving a trailer out to Colorado and picking them up, because it'll be about half the cost in shipping. It'll take us 2 days to do it. It's a 16-hour drive to that shop. We're going to go pick them up, we're going to load them, and we're going to bring them back, because it's one of those things. So, but now that this Kickstarter has done as well as it has done, better than I had feared, the slipcase will be back on the table. And as we move forward into the stretch goals, I think the next stretch goal, someone brought this up yesterday, and I hadn't really thought about it much. I want that green book, the Canopy Green. I want that to be hardcover.
Yeah, hardcover. We got slipcases we can do. And you know what?
Yeah, so
I'm going to have to update the graphic tonight, I think. It's almost at 80 grand. That's insane.
Yeah, it's closing in. So that probably we're going to do green, but the slipcases are definitely on the table now. I hear you, Steve. Car sleeving is the way to go. Your body may not agree, but that's where they're like, you're absolutely. You're in, Sparky. I think it's 16 there or 16 back, probably 3 to load or something like that. But yeah, I just, I get hotels, but it just galls me to no end. It's just fun.
Alan, I saw you pop in chat. How you doing, buddy? Alan's he works for the company GMS tabletop distributors over there in England, UK. They do our distribution in Europe now, and Australia, and lots of places. And there's the ad popping up. I was going to ask you, Alan, because we've had other questions. I know, Steve, you may have the answer. I can't remember, but he's in here, and Torlock was asking about Canada. I've had a bunch. Oh, and that reminds me.
I haven't even mentioned this to Alan yet. Let's tackle one at a time, Chuck, before that reminds you.
No, this is related to this with Willie.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, I can wrap it all up. So I checked the rates. The rates from our shop to Canada are going to be cheaper from GMS to Canada. So I went in today. I thought I put it in the update. I may not have. I changed the rates. So Willie, if you go in there and check out the Canadian rates, you'll see they're much lower than they were to England and back.
So, but so you're saying from his best
from Little Rock, Arkansas. If you are in Canada, we will ship them from our mailroom. Will ship them to you, and it cut the cost right about in half.
Okay, he said his postage was showing $82 for the $99 level.
I got it right in front of me.
But I don't know if he was talking about. That's it. This was a follow up of what we talked about earlier when I told him to check out Alan.
Yeah, the 99 level should be $22.60 now. So you should be golden on that, but it brought it.
Yeah, that was Torlock that asked Frank, but I'll let Willie know. Okay. He's actually online. He may be. Oh, there he is.
The shipping inside the United States, Gambit, will be roughly, very, very roughly, about $4 to $12, somewhere around there. It'll all go media mail, so long as we don't put something odd like a coin,
T-shirt,
T-shirt or whatever,
small gnome, whatever.
A small gnome, whatever it is. That's great, Alan. That would be absolutely fantastic. I think that the shipping to Canada is just odd. I got to tell you, one of the weirdest things that I've ever experienced. We used to ship to the United Kingdom. We ship everywhere. We still do, but we had quite a few customers in the UK before we got kind of choked out of that market, and that's a whole different discussion. But we could ship stuff to Poland faster than the United Kingdom and faster than Canada. It was absolutely nuts. We had some customers in Poland. And they would buy this stuff. It would get there within like a week, and we shipped to Canada, and it still wouldn't get there. It was weird. The shipping is just weird. I want to address. Someone mentioned. I think it was A Wolf mentioned that you got a slipcase from the fourth printing and it wasn't sized correctly.
That was Sparky, I think.
Was it Sparky? It's very interesting about the books. If you look,
Maybe not.
this caused quite an uproar. There's two sizes of TLG books, and we had been printing them in size X, the smaller size, for years and years and years. And then the printer shifted, and I didn't catch it because it's literally like a quarter of an inch. I don't even think it's that much. And it was Tomb of the Unclean or something. I can't remember what book it was that I caught that was off. I just happened to be standing them up next to each other, and I was like, "What the hell?" And so it caused this whole uproar. So that's one of the reasons that those slip cases, you'll see the books don't fit because the books were slightly different sizes. It just caused it. It's a mess. And you talk about someone who's not, table chart oriented. For me to get into the fractions of these things and figure all that out it's not a good idea.
No,
That's not a good idea at all.
Let's see. So, real quick, talking about sizes, Grognard Piper said, "I know I'm in the minority, but I prefer the thinner, lighter M&T book and classic M&T book if I want something different. I'm not big on the thicker everything M&T books, and a lot of people aren't. My go-to usually is I have the normal books at the table, but if I go to a convention, I'm grabbing one of these smaller books off the shelf for sure."
We actually seriously considered the next printing of the Monsters and Treasures going actually back to the Monsters. We're in the original one. But to do that, we're gonna have to end up making, like, to keep all these monsters out, we'd end up like making 3 books or something like that. And the cost for us is huge, and the cost is for you guys is huge because it's going to be $90 compared to 40 or whatever it's going to end up being. Because at the end of the day, that cover is what that eats up most of it. Your book blocks aren't that much; they're chunk, but the cover is. So if you have 3 covers compared to 1, it's just everybody's going to be paying.
Maybe one of these days we could do some sort of like I don't want to call it classic, so we confuse, but some sort of a smaller book that would be handy to take to game stores and to cons. I don't want to say flip books. I like the old flip books; they were cool, but I think hardbacks is for travel and stuff. You got to have something.
And those flip books were the most popular books. Everybody loved them except me. I couldn't stand the thing
because you had to make them, you had to print them. That's why.
I didn't. Mark did all of that.
Oh,
Mark handled.
You really would hate them now. Well,
yeah, but yeah, no, it's interesting. Hardback CNC quick reference book. We definitely need that. I think Tyler had talked to me years ago. Hey, you were supposed to get started on this, Tyler. To do what is the Dungeons and Dragons book that compiled all of the rules and only the rules? It was the encyclopedia, or you know what I'm talking about? It was something. They did a book. I can't remember when, but it was just packed with all of the rules of AT&T. And I think TLG, Castles of Crusades at this point, could really benefit with something like that.
Well, we could always
the rules encyclopedia.
What we could always do is a stretch reward, man. If we get out,
I think that would be very cool. Extract just the rule stuff. Take all of the flavor text out.
Just charts and tables.
All of the spell descriptions out, and just have the stat block.
Yes, finally. Yeah.
I don't know what this spell does, but it lasts for 1 round.
Yeah, the rules encyclopedia was that King Cotho is correct. That's the one that had all the Beckney stuff in it, but it was straight up all the books in there. It's not
I've never actually seen one other than on a shelf. I never owned it. I didn't buy. I was the worst.
It's all the Beckney put into one book. What it is, all the basic.
I was the worst, and I want to apologize to Gary and to TSR. I was the worst customer of all time.
But you had Davis.
I don't think I ever bought a book new. Davis bought them all new, and I used his. And then when he kind of quit playing D&D and started playing Rollmaster, I took his books. So I was just the worst customer of all time.
Let's see.
Steven, your disinterest in structure and player-facing design never fails to establish.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. That's because he doesn't play. If all he did was play, he'd have a completely different take on stuff.
Probably you are correct.
Alan, yes, we have. Steve, tell him about that.
Yes.
It's my dream.
We did some wonderful. It was very weird, Alan, and this is odd. We did these beautiful little landscape screens, handmade here in the shop. Mark got to where he could make one in like every 3 minutes, so he was rolling them off like a crazy man. And they were, I think they were 8 inches tall. I want to say that's how tall. Maybe 7 inches. And then 4 panels. It was really, really cool. And so we had those for, 2 or 3 years. And then we did a poll when we ran out and we were getting stock and, we're getting all the supplies to make more. We did a poll to see because people were mentioning, I wish you'd bring back the old, what is the tall one called? I can't whatever that's called. You
It's
bring
the
back the old
standard, I
screens.
guess.
Well, it's got landscape and something.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, "Can you bring these back?" And so we did a poll. I can't remember where we did the poll at this point, but it was a huge. It's like 80% portrait. Yes, it was like 80% wanted portrait, and 20% wanted landscape. And I was like, "This is again." I'm always against. You need to post that picture of me,
Yeah,
the
portrait.
man alone. I thought the landscape screens were better because I could see over them.
Oh, it is better. Hell, I
Yeah,
can't
I
stand
mean, I'm
being
sitting
behind
there
a
and
wall. Hey.
yeah. Yeah, I got it. That's why I stand up when I CK most of the time, so I can see everybody. If I'm sitting there, I can't see what.
I wonder if we could do. You should check into having those. I know we don't like to have doubles and stuff, but I swear, if it was cheap enough, I would love to carry them. I
We
think
probably
they're great.
could, to be honest with you. We've got a great printer out in New Jersey. He does a fantastic job. I almost guarantee you he would do small ones compared to tall ones. I mean, it's that's interesting.
Oh.
Everyone here the landscape. That's funny as hell. We were asked about them at Expo because we have screens that would take them. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, we could break those out. I'll ask him and get a price quote. It'd be interesting to
That'd
see.
be great.
I love the idea of
And do a
toys.
different art on the back, a different art from the
Yeah.
portrait
Yeah.
ones. You know, that would be cool, man. That would be really cool.
The short ones with the wood interiors were great. They protected from thrown dice or players too. Yeah, absolutely. Those things were thick. I think it was 90 point board. So it's the stuff that you're going to see in school textbooks.
Right.
It was very, very cool.
Chewy RPG says, I noticed one of the art pieces in the player's handbook features an airship, but there's no other information on them. Are there any plans for airship combat rules in CNC? I've always thought Spelljammer was cool, but the ship combat rules were clunky.
Where is the airship?
So the airship's there, but I think it comes from Aired.
Is there a picture of it?
Well,
That's cool.
yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it in there. Yeah, and I know that Jason's writing them up for AA. So
Page 9 of the, yeah, that's what I was about to say. And we're definitely going to be doing it for a bar soon.
oh yeah, for sure for Barzan.
Oh yes. Oh, that's one of my favorite pictures by Jason.
It's up in the air or something. I can't remember.
It's a balloon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I'm not sure
Aired.
if those are adventures or not. I know that he added a bunch of content to it. I'm going to have to ask him. But I absolutely love. There was
Isn't that Aired though? That picture?
No. That was just we went. He did those. My God, back in 06 or something, and we bought like 5 of them. One's on
Really?
Tower of Adventure. There's just some
Oh, that
beautiful
guy.
landscapes
Okay.
he did.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Jason Walton.
Huh.
But if it doesn't land somewhere,
Oh, it is
Jason
Jason.
is working on a sea adventure book. It'll definitely be in there. But I think it may be an Amazing Adventures. I gotta look at that. I haven't gotten.
Yeah,
into
it should
CKJ.
be. It should be in Amazing Adventures. That'd be insane for it not to be.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, that's really the thing.
Yeah.
Airships travel between islands floating in a gas giant. There you go.
It would be awesome. And then
Sadly, this hour has flown by like absolute crazy, and I do have to jet. Were we doing any giveaways or anything like that?
No, not today. I just want to.
Yes, Torlock. We need an office north of the border. Something. It's absolutely something. It's just crazy. We do. I will say this. This is very good news. We just signed with a Canadian distributor. I can't remember her name at the moment. It's Universal. So you should, in the next few months, see the pipeline open back up again. So very, very excited about that. And I know now it may be a little bit longer because all the distributors know that we've got a 10th printing coming out, so they may want to hold off. But we'll see. We'll see. It's so in the coming months that too will be solved. Ship-to-ship combat, yes, that is definitely going in there. I know Jason's already pitched what he wants to do. I wanted short form ship-to-ship and long form, and he's done both. They've not been play tested yet, but I've seen them, so we are definitely doing that. But I wanted the short form for my style of gaming, so that I don't have to read anything. I can just get to it. There you go. All right.
Okay.
We're gonna wind this stream down. I think Chuck's gonna take us out of here in a second, but I want to thank everybody for coming out today, and thank everybody for supporting the Kickstarter. If you could, please share it on all of your socials. Get the word out. She's doing fantastic, but I would love to see it do even more. I'd love to see the Beneath the Canopy Green and hardcover. I'd like to see us talk about, maybe smaller landscape screens or slip cases or whatever it is we can concoct. I think it'd be great. Yeah, we're closing in on that last stretch goal. So please, if you can, spread it, spread the word on it, and look for a new player's handbook in the next couple of days. A new 10th printing PDF thing, whatever.
All right. We're gonna get out of here. We'll see you guys later. It's probably not Frank. I'll have to get that taken care of this week. Me and Grace are going to get in there and actually look and see what we need to update on there. So it'll be up there, and I'll let you know so you can go back and watch it. He plays in the Sunday game, but he was out Sunday. So
Oh, nice.
all right, guys. That's right. We're going to get out of here. You guys have a good evening, and we will be back tomorrow, Wednesday. I'll be back in the morning streaming, and then we're going to be.
Thank you, Gambit. Very cool. Yep, she's about to roll over 77.
Oh, nice. Excellent. Anyways, we're going to get out of here. We'll see you guys later. Have a good day.
Take it easy, everybody.